And so I think we're in a need for really dialectical analysis, because the militarism of both parties is antithetical to any human decency. And no matter who wins, we're going to have to organize. At the same time, that under a fascistic system, it is much more difficult to organize. And so I think, in a way, for progressives, for people on the left, we need to ascertain who we want to organize against. And that's who we need, because we definitely don't need a fascist in the White House.
Yeah. And I see it, like, I see what you're saying, but then I also feel like if when we talk about Trump getting in, we talk about so many more people paying attention and being angry about the things that they're okay with Joe Biden doing right now that he continued from Trump in the first place. Whereas with Trump, it's like they are on him. And then I feel like, let's say Kamala gets in, they're going to keep doing the same thing, except for all those people are now going to go back to brunch and everything is going to be fine for them. And I feel like what Peter said before, like, we're going to hell. I mean, not, hell, but like, and to me, I look at it like Kamala Harris is the escalator and Trump is the free fall. And I feel like we need to hit this point, but they're already, I mean, the cop cities that are all over the place that are coming down on protesters and all of this, like, militarized policing and all this. This has been going on under Democrats. Like, this is going on in blue states, blue cities. And so I don't know what keeps people more active. Like, in my mind, more people stay awake fighting against somebody like Trump.
It's essential to organize. There's no question that that's the case, and people need to be constantly awakened and reawakened. Dan Ellsberg, who I was lucky to know and work with, he said, it's an illusion that things can't get worse. They can. And are we going to decide for a woman in this country that it's not important to us whether she can have an abortion if she wants one? Are we going to decide for millions of poor people that it doesn't matter if their social safety net is shredded? I think that sometimes there's a temptation. If I run a progressive magazine, well, my subscriptions will go up. If the person in the White House is even worse, well, that's not really the kind of criteria that should work. We want social change. And I think that progressives have two overarching responsibilities. We fight the right wing, the misogynist, the racist, the nativist, and we also fight for progressive policies. If the Republicans control Congress and the White House, we ain't getting a shred of progressive policies. If you look at the last 4 years domestically, there have been some things pushed through. And I know you've been very aligned with Bernie Sanders. I have too. I was a Bernie delegate twice. Bernie is saying that because he understands it.
Where I would push back is I do believe that there has been a seismic shift in the Democratic Party in terms of who is having the most say in the party. I think that they were really caught off guard with Bernie running in 2016. The 2016 and 2020 campaigns were diametrically different, in my opinion. The 2016 Bernie Sanders campaign was the closest thing to a modern day Teddy Roosevelt, Eugene Debs type of a run that you were ever going to see. And he scared their party so badly that they embraced the Republican Party harder than they've ever embraced it before. And that's why you now, in the home stretch of the election, have Kamala going to the upper Midwest with Liz Cheney to try to get the votes to win the election. To me, that is a manifestation. It's not an anomaly. It's a manifestation of what this party has become. It's been adjacent to Wall Street ever since the mid-'80s with the DLC. It went into hyperdrive under Clinton. They attempted to continue this trend with Hillary. They obviously continued it with Barack. And now they're trying to do it again. Only now it's like, I think the country is so fed up in the direction that we're heading in that this is the ultimate lesser of two evils perspective from the voter demographic. The way they're looking at it, even if you're voting for Trump or Kamala, is that I don't want the other side. And that is a very dangerous place to be. And it's also, as I've stated many times before, to view the level of privilege from the average liberal voter in this moment, when there is a literal genocide taking place every day, it is very hard to just be like, how are you not addressing this? How do you pretend like this isn't going on? You're acting like this is the end of no, this is the end of the world, because you are pushing. And this is where the whole economic component comes into play. And this is the one thing that I think a lot of people are attracted to Trump's message on, which is BRICS is a real thing. And these countries are gaining strength in terms of their economic viability to move away from the US dollar. And if that is what is going to happen, that is all on us. We did it. We did it to ourselves. And as Jen, you famously like to say, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. And we're in the hog stage.
Oh, we're way in the hog stage.
And this is why I almost fear that things could get worse under Kamala for this reason. For some reason, if Trump wins, all of a sudden, all those liberals that we talk about, now they're going to care about the kids in Gaza all of a sudden, because it's on Trump's ass that the ones who's doing it. That's what I fear.
Right.
I just don't know what direction we could go in right now. It's, as we often like to say, you know, Trump, the manifestation of Donald Trump as Biff Tannen from Back to the Future, we are in the Biff horrific, you know, like time right now. It's like we're stuck in this world.
You know, if you read, for instance, Rashid Khaledi's book, The 100 Years War on Palestine, he talks about the 4 years under Trump, which were terrible for Palestinians. If you look at what Trump has been saying, including a call to Netanyahu very recently, said, do what you got to do. So there are a lot of people, including Jim Zogby from the Arab American Institute. Of course, we condemn without equivocation what the Biden-Harris administration has been doing with Gaza. Jim Zogby and others think that it would be even worse under Trump for Palestinians. Now, we might say it doesn't matter because it's all so terrible. There is no such thing as worse. I think that that could bleed into, especially with domestic policy, into a kind of unconscious elitist approach, because we're not poor. This is a big difference between the two parties. If we think that the Republican Party running both houses of Congress and the White House will be in any way receptive to progressive change, we should rethink that. The fact is, that's going to be a brick wall. There are cracks in the wall under Democrats on domestic policy. We might be so furious about what happened in 2016 and 2020 that we don't want to acknowledge that, but it is actually true.
But here's the point, and this is something I know you're aware of. This is why the Democrats are doing what they're doing, because they feel that they literally have us backed up against the wall with a firing squad. They're saying, I know the genocide's bad, but I'll give you more genocide if you allow Trump in there. That's what it feels like.
Well, I mean, is this a grudge match or not? I mean, Sawant, a wonderful city council member from Seattle, campaigned with Jill Stein in Michigan and said, we're going to punish Kamala Harris. That's not political analysis. That's personality stuff. I'm with Noam Chomsky, who said very clearly 4 years ago that it was essential to vote for Biden against Trump because of what Trump is and the movement that he represents. And as Chomsky said, we can talk all we want about the lesser of two evils, but if we say we don't believe that it matters, then we're saying that more evil is just fine. It's just fine, equivalent to less evil.
Okay, so then the question now is this, because they're in power. So if the call for, let's say, a weapons embargo or a ceasefire, but we all know that this can get so much worse. I've said the worst leader in the world by far is Netanyahu. There is no one close. He's the first person I would say would drop a nuke if given the opportunity.
Oh, he's going to take everyone out with him on his way out.
That's the scary part. And so my question to you is, why would there be, you're set like 5 days left, and right now the trends are suggesting that it's probably edging towards Trump. So let's say that there's a Hail Mary pass that Kamala has to throw right now in order to stave this off and, let's say, win Pennsylvania and with it ultimately win the election. My question to you is, why isn't there a firm message? Her messaging is one of the absolute worst I've ever seen of any politician, forget president. But why isn't there this concise message of, we are going to have a weapons embargo, we're going to have a ceasefire, and this,
They
this
gave
whole
them the
like-
30 days, which purposefully went past the date of the
Right.
election.
Right.
That
It's
was
like
the whole point.
the whole thing about the political football being that, well, now the election's over. Now I don't have to do anything. So that's my question to you. It's like,
Well,
so
you're
where
asking
is it?
you're asking why, and I would answer that they're completely old school. They're afraid of the Zionist lobby, and they're cowardly. And I would say that the polling indicates it's may well have been at least in the opportunistic level a big mistake. She probably get more votes in the swing states by coming out for an arms embargo. I think the reality is that Biden should be right behind Netanyahu at The Hague. And if Harris wins and she continues the policy, she should be right behind Biden at The Hague. That is the reality. When Netanyahu hears, as he did from Trump, that you should do what you need to do, that's music to his ears. Nobody disputes that Netanyahu not only wants Trump to win, but has done everything he can think of. So he wants to help Trump win. So we have to ask ourselves, gee, now Netanyahu, you just correctly said is a huge, in effect, war criminal. We should ask ourselves now, why does Netanyahu really want Trump to win?